What's up, everyone? This is author Anthony Avina. Welcome to Avina Vlogs. I got a brand new review for you guys today, and it's a movie review, and it's something that everyone is talking about right now. And I'm talking about, as you can tell from the title, Suicide Squad. This is one of the most highly anticipated films of the summer. There's been a lot of controversy surrounding it after critic reviews came out. If you see movement, it's my dogs around here. I went and saw the film on Saturday, and will tell you right now I loved it. This is going to be a very positive review, and I'm also going to discuss some of my thoughts on critic reviews as well in this overall review. I have my written review here. I'm going to be looking at this for notes, and let's discuss, shall we, my thoughts and opinions on Suicide Squad. Now, I want to give you guys a warning right away. There are going to be some spoilers in this review because in order to discuss my reasonings for things, there are going to be details that have to do with certain characters or plot points. So I'm going to be having a spoiler warning right here. If you don't want to be spoiled on the movie, turn away now, and I won't blame you. And if you are going to turn away, just know real quick, fantastic movie. You guys will enjoy it. There you go. So, if you're still here, that means you've either seen the movie or you don't care if you're spoiled. So, you guys ready? Here we go. Now, like I said before, this is DC Comics' most highly anticipated film of the year. And I think despite some critic reviews that this film has excelled, and I'm going to explain why. Already, the movie has broken August box office records here by defeating the previous champions, Guardians of the Galaxy, with 135 million. Quite an achievement, despite the critic reviews that came up like days before. It's an awesome star-studded cast, and everyone in the cast did an excellent job of bringing these DC comic characters to life as if it was from the pages themselves. Everyone in this movie was great. I don't have a single problem with anyone in the cast. Even the lesser-known supporting characters did a fantastic job. Let's get into the plot of the film real quick. So, like I said, got my notes. This film centers on a team created by Amanda Waller, who is played by the incredible and, in this film, terrifying Viola Davis. She's terrifying not because she has any sort of wicked superpowers, but she's a normal human being who has a lot of power politically and isn't afraid to use it and has no problems or no compassion for anyone. She has no problem killing, and she does it without even blinking an eye. She's cold-hearted, and it makes her the most terrifying character in this film to me. So she creates this super team, kind of, made up of supervillains. Deadshot, played by Will Smith, Harley Quinn, who's played by Margot Robbie, El Diablo, who's played by the incredible Jay Hernandez. Just fantastic role. Who else? We have Killer Croc, we have Katana, and we have Captain Boomerang, and Slipknot. And this whole team is made. And then, of course, there's Rick Flag, who is the U.S. Marine soldier kind of guy, who works for Waller reluctantly. Because, as you'll find out later in the film, he is involved with one of the main characters in the film, who is Cara Delevingne. She plays June Moon, who has been possessed by an ancient evil entity known as the Enchantress. The Enchantress is the first metahuman. I think someone is shredding paperwork here. Amanda Waller kind of holds the leverage over the Enchantress, making her the first metahuman to be under her control. But of course, with all these things, she loses control. She loses this metahuman, and the Enchantress is unleashed on the world, and she is the classic comic book villain where she wants to take over the world. She wants to destroy humanity, and only this like really ragtag group of heroes who are actually super villains. They're not even heroes, they're villains. They have to come together and are kind of forced together by Amanda Waller to take down the threat. And they have to go into the city where this being has unleashed unholy hell to stop this threat once and for all. So, I'm not going to get too much more into the plot. I will say that the Enchantress has a sort of co-conspirator in her ancient evil brother Incubus. He is not named, I don't think, throughout the film. Until the end of the film, you find out what his name is. But he serves as like the brute force of the film, and yeah, I enjoyed the villains, and I'll get into that more. I have to say this: I absolutely loved this film. I loved the music, I loved the comic book lore, and the incredible cast that just, you can tell they were having fun, and they really were the driving force of this film. This was definitely an ensemble cast kind of film. This was, in my opinion, I was geared more towards the cast themselves than the plot that brought them together, which I think was actually a really good thing. It's something different, it's something new. I have to say, the movie seemed to be lifted from the pages themselves of the comic books, like I said earlier, and the performances, especially from Will Smith, Margot Robbie, Jared Leto, who played the Joker. He's the brand new Joker in the DC universe, and phenomenal. I don't think we should compare his Joker to Heath Ledger. Heath Ledger was a completely different Joker all on his own. He was fantastic. But the Joker that Jared Leto performed or portrayed is a Joker I can see interacting with the larger DC universe as a whole, which is something I'm really excited about. So, he was great. Jay Hernandez, El Diablo, was, he stole some amazing scenes, and his backstory was so emotional and so fascinating to see unfold in the film. And of course, Amanda Waller, so cold-hearted. You don't want to mess with her at all. What really makes her a fantastic villain in this film is her cool demeanor and her cold, calculating mind, to where she doesn't care who gets hurt in the process or who dies. She's to accomplish what she's to accomplish. Makes her terrifying to see on screen. Here's where the spoilers come in. Alright? Final warning. The main problems that I saw critics talking about a lot when I read the reviews were the plot, the main villain, and the amount of backstory that each character was given. I had no issues with any of these things personally, and I'm going to explain why. Now, I will say the plot of the Enchantress trying to take over the world, it's not original. It's not like something that's never been done in a film before. I'm not saying that at all. But this film was never intended to be about the plot itself. I think it was more of a character study, and that's what this film really excelled in. This was about the ability or the inability at times for these really bad people to come together and stop a threat. It was about how they interacted with one another, how they grew or distanced themselves as a team. Could these people who have always been so self-serving and violent and corrupt actually change and grow to be something more, something that could stop threats that no one else could? That's what the film was about to me. Even the Enchantress, I loved seeing the twist of having her human counterpart, which is June Moon, be romantically involved with Rick Flag. It gave both those characters, who may have been just one-dimensional if not for this plot device, it gave them more depth. It gave them complex histories, and it gave them a bigger motivation in the film. Rick Flag wasn't just the stern, rule-following soldier. He was that, but he was also a man in love and torn between his duty to his country and to his superiors and his duty to, saving the love of his life. I thought those two concepts clashing with one another was really a great study, and getting to see Cara Delevingne flex her her dual reversal roles as both June Moon and the Enchantress was great. You got to see her frightened and terrified as June Moon, but you got to see her such like a feral beast almost as the Enchantress, and very violent and very chaotic, and it was great to see unfold in the film. So while the plot wasn't an original one, it was still an enjoyable one. And I think there's a stark difference. I'm gonna talk about this plot, and I'm gonna include some points from the Marvel Universe in this. Now, I'm gonna talk about the biggest complaint that critics had, and that is with the plot device. I'm reading notes here, so I'm with you guys. I have 2 points when I'm going to talk about this plot device. This is a villain team-up comic book movie, so that's my first point. So when you have a team-up film like this, of course the plot is going to involve a global threat. You can't have a first film in a team-up franchise be some hardcore political espionage type of thing. This is about introducing the characters and giving them a threat that unites them, especially this group of characters who have always been so self-serving in their villain careers. And 2, the villain isn't an overcomplicated one, and it's an evil that wants world domination, and I actually think that's a good thing. See, I love Marvel films. I love the Marvel Universe. I've been watching them for years, since the first Iron Man. So I've always loved the Marvel Universe. However, the one criticism I always have of the Marvel Universe is the handling of their villains. So far, there have only been 2 villains in the Marvel Universe that I really truly loved. And I'm talking about the film franchises. I'm not talking about their television. And that's Loki and the Red Skull. Those are the only 2 that really had a villain those are the only 2 villains I really loved on screen. Everyone else was they didn't really have a purpose. It was more about the heroes and their adventure than the villains themselves in those films. Especially this past summer's Civil War. I loved Civil War. It was a fantastic superhero flick. However, I did not care for the villain in that film, who was, spoiler alert, he was Baron Zemo, and in the comics he was Captain America's adversary during World War II. He had this purple suit on. They were equal in agility and combat. He had a calculating mind. But in this film, he was an ex-soldier from that country, Sokovia, from Avengers Age of Ultron. And his family died, and he was on a mission of revenge to tear the heroes down. And it was more psychological and stuff, which is fine, but it wasn't really a villain I cared for. I was more invested in what was going on with the heroes in that film. So, Marvel films, even the ones that have been praised for years now, have not had excellent villains. There's only been a handful of films that included Loki, and there's only one that had the Red Skull, and those were the 2 best villains so far in the Marvel Universe. And yet, the Marvel films are praised all the time, while DC, who has had excellent villains so far in their films, are always panned, and I don't know why. I feel like people have a problem with gritty films. I think people have a problem with, in this movie, they don't know how to get behind a villain that's more magical based. And I love the integration of science fiction, real world grittiness, and magic in this film. I loved it. That's always what DC Comics has been about, so it was great to see that play out in the movie. The Enchantress is finally a true comic book villain brought to life. She was feral, like I said. She was very ruthless. And what I liked about her is she actually got physically involved in the final combat scene of the film. She wasn't standing on the sidelines. She had her big speech about join me or die. That's classic comic book stuff. But when it came down to time for fighting, she didn't have her minions attacking them. She got into the fight herself and gave them a run for their money. And it was great to see that, because that's what happens in the comic books. And it was great to see that in real life. Like I said, not since Loki was involved have I seen that in the Marvel Universe. So Cara Delevingne really did a fantastic job. She's not given enough credit. That's one thing that really bothers me about the critic reviews, is they're just panning her character, and I actually loved her character. She was great. So yeah, what I really appreciate though about this film and the whole DC comic universe as a whole is the grittiness of it. I love dark, gritty movies, and I like having a variety in my superhero movie watching. I love the more lighthearted stuff from Marvel. I loved the Marvel's Fox division movies with Deadpool and X-Men. I loved Deadpool's raunchy comedy style of action. But I also like the dark, gritty stuff that DC is doing. DC Comics has always been a darker toned comic book company, and their stories have always reflected that. So getting to see Batman, Superman in that dark, gritty world was great, and I loved Suicide Squad's grittiness. That's always what it's been about. What this film really did was it really captured humor with a mixture of that dark, gritty, emotional pull that DC Comics is known for, and I loved it. I loved every second of it. Finally, the backstory for each character was perfect. I think the complaint that they didn't have enough time to show their backstories, I'm sitting here, I'm thinking about, the film was 2 hours long. If each character were given a 15 to 20 minute backstory, this film could have been like 5 hours long. I mean, it's a lot of characters in this film, and there's not enough time. This was never an origin story film, and I watched Melanie Mack's review, and she shares a lot of my same opinions, and I have to say it, I am ready for origin stories to kind of take a break. There are certain characters that I understand, like Wonder Woman. She's been needing a movie for years, and I think her origin story is important to tell, especially now we're finally getting Wonder Woman's story. However, I don't think every single character needs to have a 2 hour long origin story. I think origins can be told in a relatively short amount of time, and their history can come out and it can be reflected through their actions in the film. So it was kind of nice having this quick little backstory for each character to explain who they were, and then getting to see their personalities kind of reflect who they are now, who they've become. I think that was really important. And David Ayer did a fantastic job with this film, by the way. He just did a wonderful job of bringing his gritty style of shooting films to this like lavish, colorful DC Comics film. I loved it. It was great. And, you know, the backstories were just enough of a tease to keep the audience interested in seeing the characters in future films. I'd love to see Harley Quinn and the Joker, not only in a Batman film, but I'd love to see Harley Quinn get her own movie. I'd love to see her interacting with like Poison Ivy and the Joker, and I'd love to see a Birds of Prey film. I mean, there's so many endless possibilities for them. I'd love to see Deadshot and more Suicide Squad, of course. I'd love to see Killer Croc become part of the Batman universe. That would be really cool. Katana, she was awesome. I loved Katana. She was badass. And I loved the inclusion of the Soul Sword from her comics, because that is such an important part of her character, and that's something that can be really fleshed out in either her own film, or if they did like Batman and the Outsiders, that would be really cool. So I loved it. I loved every second of it. I loved the cameos for the Flash and Batman and the Joker in it, because they weren't the stars of the film, which they normally would be. They were supporting characters, and they helped develop the characters in this film into becoming something more. They were in it just enough to give us a glimpse of what they'll be like in future films, and they gave us a glimpse of how these characters are viewed through the eyes of the villain, which was something that you don't really see very often. And it was great to see. Especially, there's an interaction that Batman has with one character that I didn't see coming, and it was great to see. It was such a fantastic scene. So, overall, I'm giving Suicide Squad an A+. It was a 10 out of 10. I didn't have one single fault with it. The music was perfectly paired. There was a popular song with almost every single scene. It was great. I don't know what kind of money the studio spent on that soundtrack, but it was a phenomenal record that was being played throughout the film. This was not an Oscar-worthy film. I'm not saying that at all. This was not an award season kind of film, but it was a fantastic film. It was a lot of fun, which is what movies are supposed to be. And movies are supposed to speak to the viewer. And to me, this was a work of art because I enjoyed it. I found beauty in it. I found entertainment in it. And it spoke to me. And that's what art is supposed to be. It's not supposed to be something that everyone is in consensus with. I'll tell you right now, I've never been a fan of the most recent 2 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle movies. I am not a fan of the Transformers movies. There are plenty of things that people get behind that I don't. However, I don't put them down because I understand that there's an audience for it. I know there are people who are going to enjoy it. I don't get the Minions movie at all. I don't get that. And yet I know there are kids who like it. So, overall, I just have to say that critics need to keep an open mind. They need to go into a film and enjoy it for what it is, and quit going into these films with such a negative outlook on the superhero franchises as a whole. This was a marvelous film that did not deserve the overall pan that it got from the critics, and I think it's reflected in the audience, the general audience now, voicing their own opinions when they say this film was great. And I was definitely one of those fans. If you're a comic book fan, if you're a DC fan, this film was beyond amazing. And I highly recommend it. I plan on seeing it again. I even have my Suicide Squad shirts, my Harley Quinn right here, and Deadshot. Everyone was great. I'm looking forward to seeing it again, and highly recommend you guys go see it if you haven't yet. Don't let the critics fool you. Go see the movie for yourself. Keep an open mind. And just remember, this is supposed to be a fun movie. This is not overcritical. Don't take yourself so seriously if you go see this movie. Don't overthink it. Just enjoy it. And you'll be happy, because I know I was. So, thank you for watching this review. In the comments below, let me know if you've seen this film, and if you did, what did you think? Leave your comments down below. As always, be respectful and kind in your comments. And yeah, that's everything, guys. Thanks for watching. Give this video a big thumbs up. Like this video, comment on it, favorite it, and share it. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. It means the world to me if you did. And click that eye in the sky for today's recommended videos. Play this some more. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time. Long days and pleasant nights, my friend.